Beyonce just broke the record for the most awarded person at the Grammys, but honestly, it's still not enough because the Grammys did Beyonce dirty yet again. She lost Album of the Year for the 4th time, and everyone is convinced that the Grammys have a hidden agenda against Beyonce, and they're secretly blackballing her. Beyonce herself has slammed the Grammys for their bias, and this is a hot stinking PR mess for them. So the 2023 Grammys finally held, and as always, there was drama. I swear every year the drama at the Grammys keeps giving. Now, when the nominations first dropped a couple of weeks ago, the Beehive lost their minds because her album, Renaissance, got 9 nominations, which meant that Beyonce was tied with her husband, Jay-Z, at the most nominated person of all time in the history of the Grammys, with 88 nominations each. That's just insane to think about because that's a lot. Talk about a power couple. Then the Grammys happened, and the only thing everybody could talk about was how Beyonce got robbed by the Grammys and how she was blackballed again. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about Renaissance and why people think that Beyonce got robbed even though she won 4 awards. Renaissance was one of the most successful albums that were released in 2022 and sold 332,000 copies in the first week alone. Before y'all come at me saying that these numbers don't mean that the album was good, because the Beehive is always going to hype Beyonce up, let me tell you that it topped 25 end of the year ranking by different outlets, which just tells us that the album was straight fire. It got a lot of hype, but what we're not gonna do is lie that it was overhyped or that it wasn't a great album, because it was. Anyway, back to the Grammys. Beyonce was nominated 9 times, which included Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year when the nominations were announced. It was immediately clear that she was going to be winning a couple more Grammys, and there were high hopes that she could potentially tie or even break the record for most Grammys won by a single person, which was 31. At the time, Beyonce was tied in second place with Quincy Jones, as they both had 28 awards each. All she needed to do was win at least 3 awards. Well, not only did she win, but she also broke the record by winning 4 Grammys, bringing her total to 32 Grammys, which is wild. I don't know about y'all, but I just want to see where B keeps her awards, because I'm willing to bet that she has an entire room dedicated just to the awards alone. So she won the Best Dance Electric Album, Best Dance Electric Recording, Best Traditional R&B Performance, and Best R&B Song. Her award for Best Dance Electronic Album was her 32nd Grammy. And just take a look at the moment she was announced.
Breaking the record for the most Grammy wins of all time. Be upstanding and show your respect. It's Renaissance, Beyonce.
Her acceptance speech was even more beautiful.
Trying not to be too emotional, and I'm trying to just receive this night. I'd like to thank my Uncle Johnny, who's not here, but he's here in spirit. I'd like to thank my beautiful husband, my beautiful 3 children who are at home watching. I'd like to thank the queer community for your love.
But even with this, there's the fact that Beyonce didn't win in any of the 3 major categories, which are Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Album of the Year. This sounds wild, but in her entire career, Beyonce has only won a major category once, and that was for Single Ladies back in 2010. Can you imagine how wild it is that the Beyonce, the most awarded person in Grammy history, has never won an award for Album or Record of the Year, even when she keeps dropping bangers every single time? This year, Harry Styles won Album of the Year for his album Harry's House, and people dragged him in the Grammys because a lot of people felt like Beyonce deserved it more. Oh, and let's not get into the part of his acceptance speech, which is what made people even angrier.
This doesn't happen to people like me very often, and this is so nice. Thank you very, very much.
I still can't get over the look on Adele's face because it was clear that she was not here for his win. This was the reaction of the Barbs when Harry won over Beyonce.
Okay. Literally gonna get violent. No,
Harry got dragged for winning over Beyonce, and I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a little when I saw the tweet that said, Rolling Stone named him the new king of pop. His music is very mediocre. I heard someone do a cover of As It Was, and it sounded better than the original. If his music was a seasoning, it would be flour disguised in powdered sugar. Nah, y'all are just plain evil. But seriously, this was Beyonce's 4th time losing Album of the Year, and people now believe that she is being blackballed by the Grammys because she's a black woman. It's starting to feel like the Grammys will award her with as many awards as possible except for the most coveted ones, even when she deserved them. And she's not the only black woman who has been blackballed, because they did the same thing to Nicki Minaj. Do y'all even know how crazy it is that Nicki Minaj has never won a Grammy, even though she is the greatest female rapper of our time and one of the greatest rappers ever, period? The Grammys have a clear bias against black women, and they're no longer even trying to hide it at this point. Even Adele took her Grammy award and dedicated it to Beyonce because she felt like Beyonce deserved Album of the Year. The Grammys were dragged throughout the entire internet streets with people saying Beyonce losing Album of the Year at the Grammys. They continue to prove their bias toward Latino and black people. Wasn't it enough for Beyonce to lose in 2016 with Lemonade? Beyonce continues to be boycotted without Album of the Year and used as a token to disguise the Academy's racism. Beyonce's Album of the Year snubs have become intentional. The Grammy Academy purposely votes against Beyonce due to racism, misogyny, biases, and overall envy. The Grammy voters would like to keep her humbled. You may have the most, but you'll never get the big one. It's clear. And there is something sexist and racist that the Grammys use Beyonce for viewership, but out of all her Grammys she's never gotten Album of the Year. She's got a lot of random A awards. Yet the Grammys are always centered around her, from commentary to other artists. Another snub, shaking my head. So yeah, people are mad, but the anger is justified because according to an article by Variety, a couple of Grammy voters admitted to purposely not voting for her even though they know that she deserved the vote. One voter, who is a Grammy-winning producer-engineer who has been a voter for almost 20 years, said, "I felt very strongly that Lizzo has changed the culture a lot. About Damn Time was a great track that everyone responded to. I also look at who's been there and go, okay, Adele, Beyonce, they always win. It's the same people over and over again. So I went for Lizzo." So the reason this person didn't vote for Beyonce was that he didn't want her to win because she's always been winning. And this just makes me question how objective the whole process is supposed to be. But that's not the only one, because another voter said, with Beyonce, the fact that every time she does something new, it's a big event and everyone's supposed to quake in their shoes, it's a little too pretentious. Again, this person didn't vote for Beyonce because she's a big artist with a loyal fan base. His vote had nothing to do with the quality of her music or anything related to her music. He just didn't like the fact that people go wild over Beyonce. Sounds like a hater if you ask me. Oh, but that's still not all, because this other voter threw shade at Beyonce saying Brandy's album is maybe the only one that has real musicians. The credit list on the album is not 8,000 people. 3 people made that record, plus the band, and that's it. This is a shade because Beyonce did due diligence and credited every person who was involved in the project, down to the last person. So in addition to being blackballed by the Grammys, Beyonce also faces a lot of hate from the voters. And again, this proves that the Grammys are not fair. And I'm also wondering if, because of the fact that all 8,000 people were on her album, anyone who's on an album has to be credited and given a Grammy. So perhaps they didn't want to give that many people a Grammy. Someone commented, Beyonce doesn't need the Grammy, but it clearly doesn't make any sense for an album as critically acclaimed as hers to not win with Album of the Year, especially when you read the article of the voters explaining why they voted the way they did, not even considering the quality of her music. And this other person tweeted, Renaissance not winning AOTY is another example how a black woman can consistently deliver excellence, reinvent the wheel, plus shake the culture, and still not be recognized to the extent that she deserves. I hope Beyonce realizes that her music is more important than a Grammy. I know that's right. This person made a great point. I mean, when you think about the Oscars, any movie where there are so many nominations, it's winning Best Director, Best Music Score. Eventually, it does win Best Screenplay overall. According to an insider, Beyonce is pretty disappointed by the loss, and she also feels like she was robbed. The insider revealed that even though Beyonce respects the hard work of the other nominated artists, she knows that Renaissance was the most critically acclaimed and also performed better than the other albums, so it deserved to win. While she is grateful for her wins, especially now that she holds the record, she desperately wants to win Album of the Year. She thinks that it's unfair of the Grammys to deny her even though she has been nominated 4 times and is extremely disappointed with their biases. The Grammys really need to do better because this just ain't it. And if they continue like this, they ain't seeing heaven. Every year they keep doing this mess and it's just disrespectful at this point. And speaking of messy, y'all gotta check out the chaos in this next video because child, it's a roller coaster. It's your girl Kiki with the hottest tea. Peace.